Happy Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. This video is called Healing Frustration. I want to share a personal story with you guys today, and my hope is that in sharing my personal experience, that in one way or another, this will provide a reflection of healing for other people who maybe have similar life experiences to mine, or maybe knows somebody who does. So hopefully sharing my experience will support further healing in one way or another through you or those around you. So I've been working on a strategy to help guide others to create inner balance, to then manifest a world around you, outside of yourself, that is a reflection of that internal balance. And I've been going through that experience on my own and practicing this strategy and method, and it's taken me really deep, and it's awesome. And as I cultivate that inner balance, I'm guided further and further into this deep healing. And I do believe I hit a really important point just a couple of nights ago, and this is the experience I wanted to share with you. I was immediately taken to my earliest experiences as a child. And I was feeling this all too familiar feeling, and it was frustration. And I was sitting there and it was growing really uncomfortable. I mean, I felt like that little girl all over again, where I was like, oh man, I want to shut down. I don't want anybody to look at me. I don't want anybody to ask me what's wrong. If they ask me, what will I say? I don't even know how I feel. I don't understand. And the frustration was building and building. And so I just closed my eyes and I just sat with it. And I was able to separate myself into two different perspectives and have a little bit of self-dialogue. So there was the little girl who was frustrated, and then there was the me who I am now, and the more emotionally intelligent self. And then it started to become really clear through the self-dialogue. The little girl revealed to me that I was feeling stuck in between two worlds. So a lot of young people, I mean, more and more as the generations come in really aware, very sensitive to any distortions in our reality, anything that is not a reflection of our organic nature. And so I came into this world very much that way, very sensitive, and I had no understanding of what I was experiencing or feeling at all. I also was born and raised in Queens, New York, so growing up in New York City definitely was a challenge and made me who I am today. But I was not aware of what this was that I was experiencing, what this spiritual world was that I was so connected to but couldn't conceptualize. So I would look at the world around me and it just was so conflicting with my nature. I didn't understand how this system could feel so right inside of me, but the world outside of me did not reflect that. So I was stuck between two worlds. Therefore, whenever an emotion wanted to be experienced or even expressed, I didn't even know how to process them. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know how to accept the emotion. I didn't know how to express it, because these two different worlds were telling me two different things, and I didn't know which one to believe. I wanted to believe the outside one because everyone else was doing it. I wanted to be like all the other kids. I wanted to have fun at birthday parties. But God, I was sitting there thinking all kinds of things that would just build and build up the anxiety of, what if this person doesn't like me, and I don't really like to do those things that those other kids are doing. I don't really want to play with these toys, and I feel claustrophobic in that play area, and I can feel all the germs, and I was feeling things on a because I'm not a germaphobe per se, but I'm very sensitive, so I can feel things on a finer level. And as a kid, that was very activated, and so I was grossed out by like ball pits and things like that. But I just wanted so badly to fit in, and so I would go to these birthday parties and watch all these kids doing all these things, and I wanted to be just like them, but I could not resist my design. Thankfully, I didn't compromise my authenticity. Thankfully, I held on really strong to my beliefs. But the thing is, I came into this world, like many of you, mission oriented. Whether I understood that consciously or not, it was a part of my very deep programming, and I couldn't help but maintain my knowing. But what happened was I kept this on the inside, and I was very shy for many years, and I kept all of this to myself because it just didn't match the outside world. And that created a lot of frustration. So although I couldn't conform, which is awesome, that's not the goal. We're not here to conform to a pattern that actually is not a healing one. We're not here to conform to what has been considered the norm. We're here to break the mold. And so I'm really grateful that I've maintained my intuition. But again, it caused a lot of frustration, and it cultivated a lot of patience. It made me super strong, because when that day came that I got a download, this was in 2009, I had this whole activation, which part 2 just happened this past week, you guys. But in 2009, when that first one happened, what I received was the truth, a message that what I felt inside was right all along, and now it's time to bring it out and birth it in the world and actually be an example of that. So I'm sure you can imagine how fulfilling that was to have built all of that up inside and feel so lost and hopeless, but then to receive the message that was all for a reason and the time is now. So that was one of the best days of my life, definitely. And I know a lot of you can relate to this. And so it helps when we tell our stories and we can see kind of the same story just from different angles. It's really what life is. We're all just telling different stories, but ultimately it's the same one, just different angles. And so all this frustration that I built up whenever an emotion would rise, I don't know how to feel this emotion. So if I don't know how to feel it, I don't know what it is, I don't know how to explain it. Then I would have all these adults ask me, what's wrong, are you okay? And then friends would ask me, what's wrong, are you okay? And I would sit and I would cry for hours sometimes. And I would just hide. I didn't want anybody to see me cry. So I would sit with the frustration. And now, the other night, I was offered the experience to heal that. I went really deep with it, and I began to understand this whole concept of being split between the two worlds, and I really healed that. And I kind of just spoke to my inner self and the little girl inside, and I said, yeah, it's okay, you were just really confused, and that's understandable. It's very understandable. How can you process your emotions when you don't even know which system to apply them to? You're stuck between two worlds. And I also told her that it's okay, that there are so many beings that went through that, and so many beings right now that are going through that. And so you will continue to be an example of that as new generations come in, and make sure that you do your part in spreading the awareness, especially to the children, so they don't have to go through years of wondering, is something wrong with me? Why don't I fit in? Why am I not like everybody else? I want to tell those kids that there's nothing wrong with you. Actually, there's everything right with you, and you're perfect just as you are. And all you need to do is be yourself and shine that. And that's the world that we want to be a part of. That's the world that we want to base our emotions and beliefs on. Because no matter what world you perceive yourself to be in, all dimensions are one. And the thing always to do is to be yourself. And no, there's nothing wrong with it. And there were lots of things that came up. I remember being bullied. I remember being made fun of when I would speak a certain way. I was called corny all the time. I was called a loser, that I didn't want to take risks because I was too wimpy or whatever, or I was afraid. And I went back and I had to heal all that. Not liking certain foods, and now realizing, thank goodness I didn't like that. That was my intuition telling me those things were not good for me. And sometimes we don't have even adults in our life who know those things. because their reality is different from ours. They were raised differently, and perhaps that food, for example, as a very clear example, that food might not have been good for you, and your intuition was telling you that, but your parents genuinely might have thought that was a good food because it was for them. But we're all individual, and our kids have intuition, and we really need to tap into that and really hear them. And so I went back and healed all this stuff, and I'm making so many connections as I'm going along. And one of them that was really important to me was, when considering human design, as a lot of you are familiar with, we have a not self theme. When we're not living in our authenticity, when we're not living according to our design, we become our not self, and we don't feel good, and we play out these themes in reflection of that. And my not self theme is frustration. I'm a manifesting generator 4/6. My not self theme is frustration. And I realized I wasn't being myself all those times that I was frustrated. And that's really hard as a child. And then to go through that all throughout life, it's very difficult. I didn't know who I was, so I couldn't be myself. And I was my not self by creating all this frustration. So I went back and I explained to the little girl what emotions are, how to feel them, let her know that I'm doing it now for us and it's okay. And yeah, I really feel I hit that on the nail with my not self and understanding that frustration. It was a huge revelation for me. So if any of you have that not self theme of frustration, I would love to know, and I would love to hear more about your experiences so we can further reflect and help each other to maybe see things that we don't yet see, because there's always another layer. So I hope that this is helpful for those of you who are doing your inner child work, or those of you who are trying to go back and heal things that maybe consciously you thought you've healed, but subconsciously there are still contracts at play that we're not healing because of it. What I mean by this is I definitely feel I've gotten in touch with an emotional understanding of this reality that feels good to me. I definitely feel that I have programmed firm beliefs around what our emotions are and how to use them. But that little girl didn't know that. And so she was acting from a different place. And so I like to go back and fill her in and then replay those experiences as though I am carrying this awareness. So it's like I walk her through those experiences all over again, and then we really pull out some gems when you do that. It's like through doing that, it's a whole nother layer of self-realization and reflection, and you're able to really see things that you never saw before. So yeah, if you relate to this, I would love to hear about it. And again, if you know kids that are struggling because they don't understand why the world is not reflecting their intuition, why this outside world doesn't quite yet fully reflect their inner nature and divinity, please bring awareness to those children's lives. They might need you. They might need the inspiration. They might feel lost in this world. They might have that effect going on where they feel stuck in between two worlds. And if they feel that, they're really going to be confused as to which one to align with. And they're going to constantly go back and forth, and it's going to be very frustrating. So I hope that that can help on any level, even if it's just, getting the inspiration to further clarify to your children what type of a world they're really living in. What really is this physical reality, and how is it made manifest? What are our emotions as far as these human bodies in this world? Why are we experiencing these emotions? What are the different ones, and how? What are they here to show us? I've learned that our emotions are a guidance system, and they are here to show us what it is we do want and what we don't want. Everything comes down to a positive feeling or a negative feeling, and the point is to allow them to guide us, but to not remain attached to the feeling. So that's just a little bit about emotions. I'd love to make a video for you guys soon, more about my thoughts on the emotional guidance system. If you're interested, please leave a comment below, let me know, and I'll make sure I put that one at the top of the list. I really enjoy personal shares. I love sharing about my personal life and also hearing about your personal experiences, and they're always so interconnected. Thank you for sharing with me. Happy Thursday, everybody. If you haven't seen the latest tarot readings, they are up on Rebecca Magic on YouTube, so you just search the name. We're a little bit past the mid part of the cycle now as far as the moon goes. So we're making our way toward the full moon, and that is called, in my practice, the integration activation. So if you're wanting to book a session with me for the integration activation, what that will do is we'll do a reading, and it will provide you with the tools to integrate all of the lessons and realizations that you experienced in this past moon cycle, and really to lock that in and give you a little bit of inspiration for the next cycle. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you a little bit later.